Hi everyone, welcome back to the workshop for part 4 of this SG Junior build. Today I'm going to start to tackle the neck. So way back in part 1 I glued this timber up to make the neck blank. I mentioned at the time that I thought I might be able to get 2 necks out of this. I've done some measuring and the drawing's telling me 55mm and my SG is telling me 56mm at the widest point where the neck joins the body. Now this neck blank is a little bit over 120mm. And that's consistent along its length. So I think if I cut this carefully down the middle, I will indeed get 2 neck blanks out of it. So I've run a gauge line down the middle of this and just darkened it with a pencil line so I can see it. And I'm going to very carefully run it through the bandsaw now. Well, that went surprisingly well. I'm pleased with that. It's not bad for square. Needs a little bit of a clean up. Okay, so I'll just quickly clean that up with a hand plane. This is the straighter of the 2 sides, so I'm going to use this as my reference edge when I route in the truss rod channel. But before I do that, I'm going to establish the headstock angle. The headstock is marked at 17 degrees on the drawing, so I'm just checking that. And that is 17 degrees. So that took a little bit of fiddling around with the hand plane, but that is now dead flat and dead square. Okay, so the next job is to route a channel down the centre of the neck for the truss rod to fit into. I'm going to do it in such a way that I'm going to leave a little bit of material behind the nut for the truss rod cover to screw into. So what that means is I have to route a channel down the length of the neck, route a little pocket in the headstock, and then drill a hole to join the 2 up so that the adjuster from the truss rod can slip through. So looking at the drawings, the nut starts right on that break angle. So I'm just going to position that for the time being and mark my nut line. And then before I do anything else, I'm going to put centre lines right the way along the length of the neck. So the channel for the truss rod needs to be 6mm wide by approximately 9mm deep. So I've set the router up with a fence and I'm going to try and get this in 3 passes. So I'm going to go about 3mm per pass. Next job is to put the access in for the truss rod adjustment. I've considered a few ways of doing this. I think in the end I'm just going to eyeball it and drill it out with a spade bit. That seemed to have gone okay. I just need to do a little bit of cleaning up with a chisel and drill through for the truss rod knot. So I'll probably clean that up a bit further, but I can get access to the knot. So that's brilliant. So with the truss rod access cut and ready to go, the next bit is to continue with the shaping of the headstock. So I'm going to have to thin this area down. This needs to be about 15mm thick, and at its widest point the headstock is about 85mm. This is about 60, so I need to add the famous ears onto the headstock, which will bring it out to about 100mm wide, and then we can do the headstock shaping from there. So first off, I'm going to mark this up to 15mm, cut it roughly to size on the bandsaw, and then I'll glue the ears on, and then that's going to be pretty much it for tonight. Okay, so it's the next day, the clamps are off. I've gone back over this cutout for the truss rod adjustment with a gouge and a chisel and a couple of bits of sandpaper, and just cleaned it up, made it a bit more even. So next I'm going to plane down the headstock and get it ready for cutting out. So that's the front nice and flat. Move on to the back. The back's a bit harder to get to, but I'll do what I can now and then clean the rest of it up once I've got the rest of the neck a bit closer. So that's as close as it needs to be for now. We'll get back to that later on. So the last thing I'm going to do on the neck at this stage is to cut out the headstock shape. I've reintroduced my centre line on the headstock, that got planed off. I'll put that back on so I can establish where my headstock needs to go. It's lined up on the centre line at the top end, and then it's lined up with the truss rod route at the other. I'm going to just simply draw around that. I'm going to take the bulk off with the bandsaw, and then we'll come back and we'll pattern route that to shape. Okay, so I think we all understand the process from here. Once again, masking tape and super glue, attach the template and wrap round. I'm not going to route all of this at the moment, I'm just going to go from these corners and around. See how we've done. Yeah, that's nice. So that's starting to look like something we can all recognise. Obviously there's a bit of cleaning up to do, a bit of finishing off, finessing, but it's starting to look very nice now. I'm deliberately taking things a little bit slowly with this neck. I don't like to kind of take too much material away at any one time, especially on a tight timeline like I'm running on this project. I'm always fearful that if you cut too much material away in one go, it'll make the neck move and it could twist, and if that happens I'm making another neck and I simply haven't got time for that. So for me it's better to leave something for a day or so just to acclimatise and then move forward. So I'm going to set this aside now and start working on the fingerboard next. So I've got a nice piece of rosewood set aside to use as the fingerboard on this build. So I'll be getting into that in the next video. So thanks for watching everybody. I really do appreciate people taking time out to watch what I do. If you haven't seen the previous videos in this series, I'll put a link up there for the playlist. And if you have enjoyed them, hit the like button, consider subscribing, and I'll look forward to seeing you in episode 5. Thanks a lot.